Hello and welcome to our viewer question of the week video talk. And of course, this is a question that was asked me quite some time ago, but I thought it bore a lot of relevance. And of course, just as a side note, I want to say to those that are either on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook group to continue to ask questions, because that's actually how we continue to fill the content for this particular video. And we appreciate the fact that you take the time to watch it. But what I wanted to talk about today was something that actually is really core to a lot of esoteric or occult practice, and that is of course, divination. Now, divination is an important tool, and a person, as they progress, becomes less and less dependent upon the tools as the intuition that is within becomes much more apparent in the way that we're able to understand how things are going. But throughout a person's entire magical career, so to speak, whatever period of time you do this in your life, divination and the different tools that it encompasses are very, very useful. And this is true whether it's runes, tarot, oracle cards, toothpicks, whatever it is that floats your boat. Okay, and there's a main reason for that. All right, when you are dealing with any type of divinatory tool, you are bypassing your conscious thought processes. Now, our conscious thought process is very useful in so many different things, but it is also an expression of the egoic mind, which loves to do several things that are not in our best interests when we're trying to find answers to certain difficult questions. One is, of course, it overthinks things. We've all been guilty of that. Another is that there's the subject of worry. You've heard of people being called worrywarts. Well, that's something that, of course, the egoic mind and our consciousness in the waking state loves to do because, of course, this ties into the third thing. The egoic mind loves problems. Okay? Problems, great or small in reality, are the lifeblood of the egoic mind and its sense of control, false though it is, in our existence. Without problems, the egoic mind serves no purpose other than what? Oh my! To interpret the impulses of the authentic self. You see? Now, these thought processes that we experience are very useful, like I said at the beginning here, in many different things. If you are an engineer and you're planning something for a project, or if you're an architect, or if you are trying to solve problems at work where you have to take a look at 15 different options and look this way and that way, and you have to go through your past experience, which is, of course, touching upon the wise self or the shadowy self. But you also have to be looking at things in terms of projections of what may work this way, what may work that way. These are all part and part of our lives. When you want to get to the core issues, though, that are behind all of the subterfuge of the egoic mind, then you want to be talking to that part of yourself that is the real you, and find out exactly what is going to be at your core for your life experience. And to do that, you need to be able to cut underneath all of those thought processes, the worry, the overthinking, and so on and so forth, and get to that intuitive gut, which is part of your intuition. And like I said, as you progress, it becomes easier and easier to do this. But when you're using these tools, it's kind of like a jump start on it. Because, of course, you're absorbed in the process of shuffling the cards, or in the process of shaking up the bag of runes, or however you use the runes for that. I'll go through a couple of things for you. And so what ends up coming forth from that is not something that you consciously chose because you didn't even know what that card is when you pull it out of the deck, or what is going to happen in the random cast of the runes. It just is what it is. And then, through your intuition, you then interpret that. And yes, sometimes we can get it wrong, but most of the time, we're able to get it probably a good 70% right, even when we're just starting out. Now, when you're dealing with any type of divinatory tool, I do like the runes the best, personally. The reason for that, even though I have said time without number in other broadcasts, the runes were not originally created for divination, and they weren't. If you take a look at the lore, you'll find that they were used for sorcery. And the vulva, or the Scythe practitioner, either the Scythe Mother or the Scythe Kana, were the ones that were asked divinatory questions. All right, you can just look into what is there in terms of the ancient lore of the runes, and you will find that to be so, whether it's in the sagas, whether it's in the Prose Edda or the Poetic Edda. If you specifically look at the Havamal, you'll find the greatest case, and the only time you ever hear, at any time, of runes being in antiquity used for some sort of divination, and we're not even told that they're runes, is in the writings of the Roman historian Tacitus. And all he called them were blood twigs. So we can make certain assumptions, but we don't know. However, we do know the runes were used for sorcery, and people that were faring forth to the spirit realms, as in Scythe, they were ones practicing more divinatory rites, as well as other aspects of sorcery as well, depending on their specialty. Now, when it comes to tarot cards or oracle cards or any other thing there too, you have the same thing in that they are tools that can help open up aspects of the subconscious mind. Now, the runes can open up these aspects of the subconscious mind as well, but you better be prepared for what you get when you deal with the runes in divination, because they are very blunt, they're very direct, and they don't care if you like it or not. That's just the way it is. And the only thing really that you need to do to be able to use runes for divination, and I think this is probably why people have pushed this with the runes so much in our modern time, is to read the rune poems. Read the Anglo-Saxon rune poem, or the Norwegian rune rhyme, or the old Icelandic rune poem, or all three preferably, and you will get an idea of what these runes mean in terms of their synopsis, in a small, condensed, poetic verse. And it doesn't give you too much. And a lot of people bemoan that, but it's actually really good that it doesn't give you too much. It gives you just enough to understand a little bit of the energy that rune represents. And what happens with other forms of divination, which is a downfall, is they have all kinds of information there. This is what it means if it's this way. This is what it means if it's upside down or inverse. And this is what it means if it's beside this one. And it carries on. And people are not actually entering into the state of intuitive responsiveness. They make their card draws and they're flipping through the book to find out what it means. Now, starting out, we've all done that, okay? However, the only thing that book is good for, and some people may disagree, but hey, whatever floats your boat. But what I have found is that it's only good to read the book for the cursory meanings of what the cards represent, because there's aspects of what is going to be revealed to you in a divination that are very personal and are not going to be covered in any book. And you don't want to be engaging the waking consciousness to try and interpret the wrong aspect. You want to interpret the intuitive aspect. And so, I like this. This is the way my wife tells me. She has always read tarot cards, and I have to, if I had a hat, I'd take it off to her, is that, each card, when she does a divination, tells her a story. All right? When you're using runes, each rune can tell you part of a story. All right? An oracle card can tell you a story. And in the case of the ones that I'm going to show you here just briefly, They can be connected to entities, whether they're egregoric or actual or both, as is in this case, to spirits that will bring certain aspects of the card to the forefront, which your intuition, your authentic self, can interpret with your egoic mind being in its proper place. Okay? People get hung up on all of the different meanings. Okay? Forget about, at least at the start, forget about upside down cards or upside down runes. Forget about that. There is enough to do what is called dignify a rune or a card by what is around it, rather than worrying about, oh, this one's upside down. You know, that's actually a far more modern practice, even in tarot reading, to take inverse card meanings than, you know, what it was years and years and years ago. You see, let me give an example. For runes, I pull the rune Wunyo, joy, right on. And then I pull the rune Thurisaz. Crap. Okay, and it was upside down. Oh, no. Okay, I understand that the rune Thurisaz dignifies the rune Wunyo, and the rune Wunyo dignifies the rune Thurisaz because they were drawn together. So, in other words, your joy is tempered by conflict, and your conflict is resolved in joy. You see how those affected one another, rather than just going into all kinds of meanings that may or may not have anything to do with actual situations that will be taking place in your life. It's just, you know, pardon me, mental. We'll use a word that starts with M, but I don't want to get a strike on my channel. You know what I mean. Okay. The cards that I use are just simple oracle cards that are based upon the 72 spirits of the Lesser Key of Solomon, or the Ars Goetia. And many of those spirits are demonized pagan gods, and as well, some of them are egregores. There are also some of them, like Asmodeus, for instance, that are actually different incarnations, so to speak, of very ancient entities. Because, of course, Asmodeus was, of course, Aishma, or Isham. And that is a very ancient Persian demon. And he is a great and powerful lord and very useful for many different things. And so you have that mix in there. But regardless of which, you find that certain things will be brought to the forefront. I'm just going to show you a few cards here. I'm just pulling them out so that you can see them. Okay. This is just like the artwork here, Andromedus, for instance. Or let's take a look at this one. Yeah, you can see it's very tarot-like, but it's not based on Kabbalah. It's not based on anything except what these spirits represent. And I find that to be a very powerful divinatory tool. And I use other types of tools as well. I use runes, obviously. And I do use a cryptothic tarot. That I find a lot more honest than the ones that are based on the Kabbalah. But where it comes to these, you work with them based upon the understanding that they are not powerful of themselves without you, the prime mover, doing something with them. You're not worried about an entire library of what these different cards mean, but what stands out to you. And you know what? When you go with that, even if you're dealing with something that's very detailed, such as the Qliphothic tarot, or tarot like the Rider-Waite deck, which is based on Kabbalah, you will find oftentimes that you were right when you take a look at the different things that it says about that card in more detail. And you'll find, almost invariably, when you added too much into it, when you overthought it, that you went off base. And so it's all something that is a learning process. If you're new to doing divination, do not allow yourself to get discouraged. You'll get it. But you must be willing to be very honest with yourself. Now, I've been talking about personal divinations here, and a lot of folks say it's very, very hard to do divination for yourself. You should do it for other people. Well, yeah, you can do that. However, as a person practicing magic, you need to learn how to do divinations for yourself, or you're screwed. Okay? How are you going to find out before you get committed to it what your working is going to accomplish in your life? Or perhaps maybe that you're sealing your own fate by doing something that has repercussions you didn't really think through. Well, how do you do a divination for yourself? Well, you do a divination for yourself first, and maybe you want to write this down. There's 3 things. I love 3. The number 3. The first thing is you need to be completely honest with yourself. All right? Completely honest with yourself. When you're about to ask a question, don't try to candy coat it. Your authentic self, which is the deepest part of your consciousness, already knows everything your egoic mind has figured and plotted and schemed. There's nothing hidden. Okay? Be honest with yourself. The second thing is to be emotionally detached from the outcome. All right? That is probably the most important rule of all, because if you have an emotional attachment to the outcome, you can skew your reading, and this is where people run into problems. You can skew the whole reading because you're putting that energy into it. Oh, I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it. And guess what? The cards and your mind will respond to that. And is that reading then going to be something that holds true? Probably not. All right. And the third and final thing you need to be able to do is accept the outcome without going to do another reading because you didn't like that one. Okay? So, this doesn't mean that if you got an unfavorable reading that you give up on your project or the things that you're looking at, or you give up on the magic that you were going to do. No. What you do is you rethink yourself. You rethink your approach. Maybe do some adjustment in the things that you actually are saying that you want. And then come back and do another reading. And you know what? If you get multiple readings, regardless of how you change the tack on the situation, maybe you should just accept that that's not going to be something that works for you. Okay? Because this is a way, a very potent way, that you can preserve yourself from unwanted results in your magical work, simply because you maybe hadn't seen it from every angle. So those 3 things are what you need to do for reading yourself or reading for yourself in divination. First of all, just recapping, you need to be honest with yourself. You need to keep a distance emotionally from your question. And third and finally, be prepared to accept what the reading says. This is not, like I said, giving up. If you get a favorable reading, great. If you don't try to twist it. Just take it as advice, because that's basically all divination is. It's telling you fate. It's telling you what would be wise to do, because it's connecting to your own authentic self. Maybe you should rethink your strategy. And that's how all of this works. I am really glad that you're here. I will be looking at the questions on Facebook, because, of course, this airs at 8 p.m. on Facebook, and at 10 p.m. it airs on our YouTube channel. And I wanted to just make this announcement again. Yes, things have been fixed on the YouTube channel that now when we're broadcasting live on YouTube, I can see your comments and we can interact. I can't do that on Facebook, but I can do it on YouTube. And of course, that's where the most of our material comes out. And a lot of exciting things are in the works. Hail to each and every one of you. Thank you for watching. Until next time.